25th of August, 1845, beginning of a short and very tragic life. The last true king was born shortly after midnight, was sometimes full of darkness, but often full of light. Surrounded by fair maidens, by dragons and the night, he let the stories roll on in his head with great delight. He read the German classics, devoured the works of Wagner, and since that time he saw the world in a different manner. His father was a harsh one, his father loved the science, who didn't give a damn about his son's poetic lines. His mother loved to hike, she climbed the highest peaks, but like Max too, she never ever was a poetic geek. They reinforced his self-esteem already as a lad, this certainty, supremacy that he always had. Like Lohengrin was sent by a higher power, the crown prince was aware of his nearing great hour. Suddenly his father died when Ludwig was 18, the most ceremonious funeral Bavaria has ever seen. Head held high, auspicious eyes, coronation was soon to follow. At first he was an eager king, without doubt and sorrow. Close friend to Richard Wagner, but refused his hatred of Jews. Wagner wanted to be politically involved, what Keeney strictly refused. Without Keeney's money, there would have been neither the Ring, nor the Bayreuth Festival Hall, nor Meister's Singering. He loved all things aesthetic, in nature and in art. Unattractive stuff caused pain to his heart. He loved Brother Otto, who slowly went insane. He hated war, but in those days that was a tricky aim. In 1866, Prussia started war. Keeney, as a pacifist, didn't want any more. He talked of abdication and fled to the island of roses, but finally refrained from it at Wagner's proposals. Peace for his people, that's what he'd longing for, but he knew there was no way to avoid that war. His soldiers lost their lives and something broke inside. He fled to the castle and mountain world where he felt untied. He placed his army under the Prussian supreme command. He had no choice but giving that big power out of his hand. A first major loss, more were to ensue. One does not imagine what he had to go through. His ideals were noble, pure, benevolent, and conflicts with the real world were quite evident. For dreams of boundless power, he was some years too late. The Council of Ministers was now the head of state. January 67, engaged to the Emperor's sister, but there was no love affair, on the brow he kissed her. He'd broken up with Paul before, his first love, we guess. Punished himself for being gay, his love life was a mess. 3 days after engagement, Sophie loved pretty Edgar, who shot the formal bridal photo where he first met her. As quickly as Keeney got engaged, so quickly it was over. Wrote "Love you as a sister" on 7th of October. Wartime craze was all around in 1870. The people was on fire, the king paid heavily. He was forced to join the war, the Alliance case occurred. His protests against the empire went largely unheard. asked to offer the emperor's title to the unliked Prussian king, his attitude towards Bismarck was a whole different thing. The Chancellor was the guarantor for the last remains of his power. The loss of control drove him further into dream worlds every hour. 209 private shows always made his day, alone with his fantasy at theatre, opera, ballet. Turned night a day, devoured the sweets, got pale, toothless and fat, but couldn't completely suppress the facts as the formal states had. Fled to his castle solitude to push the construction of new ones. Spent much money he didn't have, took out big loans at once. A bribed doctor who didn't see him declared him of unsound mind. Today we know he was not insane, just absolutely one of a kind. Many who don't know better say he drowned himself in the lake, but huge conspiracy is still going on to maintain that mistake. Traces on the lake bed, bullet holes in the clothes, some surviving testimonies, Keeney's last written note. No water in his lungs, no autopsy forgotten, and the groundless refusal to X-ray his coffin. The different frozen times that both watches showed, the staying behind of the guards, as Godden before had told. So many indications prove that it'd been murder, and evidence for that cause of death continually developed further. True, he sometimes spoke about suicide, but who in his place would not? His letter 3 days before his death suggests a complot. He loved Mother Nature, the mountain solitude. Amidst the Alps and its gentle sounds, he got entirely renewed. He created high-tech that no one else dared to dream of. Avoided war whenever possible. He was a notch above. Some say he lived too late, 'cause royalty slowly wilted. Imagine his work if his influence and power would have been unrestricted. I guess he lived too early, was far ahead of his time. I wished his bright, enlightening spirit in our dark times to shine.